and how it's all a coincidence that Aretha Franklin, Elvis, and Babe Ruth, and the original person that created Coca-Cola all died on August 16th. Now, Princess Diana died on August 31st. It's still in August. The sun was still very, very close to Regulus, the Lion King star in the sky, the fixed star in Leo. And I want to go over how she's connected a little bit to Elvis and how this is all connecting to the Wizard of Oz. And it's really quite fascinating because it also connects to Dragon Springs, which is in New York City. Well, actually north of New York City in the mountains. And this is all quite fascinating how it all interlocks into the Wizard of Oz. I think it's kind of funny because I was putting this stuff together with Diana, and Amber sent me this, and there she is wearing her sheep sweater with the black sheep. I guess she felt like the black sheep, like how we all feel like the black sheep. So that was kind of funny, and it was a little bit of a coincidence. The whole reason that I went into this, looking into her death, was I was driving and I was going, yeah, I never really checked the sky when she passed away. I really need to check that date. They pronounced her death at 6 o'clock in the morning, so that would have been September 1st. So this is August 31st, the night of her death, and the moon is on Regulus. And Mercury is almost in conjunction with the sun in Leo. But then, the next day at 6 o'clock in the morning, the moon is doing an eclipse with the sun. So that's really important because I'd done a video on her a long time ago about her, I think it was Wano Savan had said that when she was to get pregnant with William, they arranged it so that she would conceive on an eclipse. So I worked out the math to that, and it does correlate to the eclipse prior to William's birth. So yeah, so definitely the eclipses are really important, and we know this about with Chinese astrology, and we're starting to see that this is really about the two pillars being together. And to me, it looks like a snake eye. It's like like on a dice. It's that black dot on the sun. She was buried in a Catherine Walker dress and black tights, and is holding a rosary in her hand. The rosary had been a gift from Mother Teresa, who had died a few days the day before the funeral. So Mother Teresa. So there's like a link between like the mother, the moon goddess mother, or Mother Teresa, which Diana really represented. That people just loved her and looked at her like Mother Teresa. Did her funeral on September 9th, which would be the 69, which is the alchemic symbol for Cancer, which is the moon. Now you got to remember, in her eulogy, they mentioned goddess Diana, and she represents the moon. Okay, so there's a, kind of a coincidence here that they put her funeral like on the numbers that represent the moon. Diana used Catherine Walker's designs a lot for her dresses, and she also had designed her an Elvis gown. Can you believe that? Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. So here it is. That's the gown, and it's all pearls. So there we got the pearl, the nacre, which is all to do with ascension. If you've been watching my channel, you would know that. Supposedly, William made a comment that he didn't think the dress was sellable because it was too awful. So they actually have a Wikipedia page all about the death and the conspiracies around the death. Now, there's supposedly this white Fiat car that smashed into her car before it crashed. And it was like, whose car was this, right? This James Anderson ended up committing suicide later when they were investigating it. But what I found fascinating was this Lee Von Tang, a Vietnamese taxi driver, was also driving a white Fiat. Something's fishy with this car anyhow, because there was like over 100,000 white Fiats, and he said that he had an alibi, but his father said that night he came home and painted the car and put new bumpers on it. Okay, so, but he never had to go to England. They wanted him to go to England, but he's saying that the French police told him, don't go to England because the laws are different there. And so they've never been able to, like, question him or anything about it. He just said, I have an alibi and it wasn't me. And, they even have traced the paint to his car, but they still can't, commit, I guess arrest him or anything because it happened in France. And this Operation Paget is the, trying to be like a cold case going into the whole thing. So anyhow, it's just really bizarre. And then the other driver ends up committing suicide. So who the heck knows? Now, Dodi's father, her boyfriend, Dodi, he said that the French police really wanted it to be blamed on the paparazzi. And they didn't want to proceed in trying to figure out who was driving the white car. So it all seems kind of weird, but the whole thing is really strange because Dodi was a film producer, and he actually created a film that was all about how to create your own death, how to, make it happen. So I don't know what to believe. I'm sure you guys are like that as well. Like, it just seems all too bizarre with all these deaths all happening around this Regulus star. And, then it just seems all scripted to me. I didn't realize that his mother was a Khashoggi. That was the whole thing in Turkey, right? With the other reporter. So they're all interconnected. And the movie that he produced was F/X. And this is like a guy trying to fake his own death because he needs to go into witness protection. He ends up struggling in a car, thing, and then it crashes, and then he escapes. That's the movie. They still put this guy in the news, like recent news. This is the red car that he ended up painting. And now he's a bodybuilder. He's like 42 years old or more, and he's a bodybuilder. It looks like he has a Superman snake tattoo on his arm. In that article where they're talking about him recently, they show her with the Elvis dress on. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. So he even admits that he painted the car, and the police know about it, and he feels totally innocent, right? But, he painted it the night of the accident. Okay, so it's just too weird. So then they have this little, little clip on one of these articles where they're saying the whole royal family, the day that they found out she died, they all went off to church and never mentioned Diana at the church at all. And all the people of England were quite upset about that. And the Queen says it was because she was trying to protect her grandchildren, and she got rid of all the TVs so that they didn't have to kind of be exposed that she had died, like be traumatized by it. So they thought life was just going on like normal, So I don't know. The whole thing is really weird to me. So they have a flame of liberty outside the tunnel where she passed. The tunnel was built as a monument to a battle that happened with French, British, Egyptian, all fighting against the Russians. And so there's a statue there, and the guy has a fez hat on his feet. He's taken off, and the statue has the fez hat. And that all relates to Islam and the Shriners. And, the whole fez hat has a history to it. You guys can go into that if you want. I didn't want to go all down that rabbit hole. When I was researching Le Van Than, this other Vietnamese journalist, activist came up, and he's all tied into the Falun Gong religious movement. Now, this is a huge religious movement that is fighting the Communist Chinese Party, and it's really interesting. Like, he just was trying to broadcast about his religious group, and he ended up going into jail, I think, for 3 years. Now, members of this religious group have actually been abused, beaten, mistreated. They've actually been killed and organ harvesting going from this group. So they're being genocided. And so supposedly it was illegal to speak about this religious group in China, but he was in Vietnam doing this podcast, but Vietnam ended up siding with China, And so it's almost like Vietnam is becoming, like a communist party with China. So I found this interesting because it's the same name as the guy that was driving the white Fiat. Now I thought, is it the same guy? But when I looked into it, I found some pictures, and it doesn't seem like they're the same person. So they're both Vietnamese, and they both have the same name, but they're not the same person. Now this religious group, they use the swastika, right, as their symbol. And it's going on here. There's like the whole history. It's a big crackdown on this group. And they have this Dragon Spring headquarters in upper state New York. It's a 400-acre facility that they have in Deer Park, New York. So yeah, so they're basically trying to fight against the Communist Party. And there's a link here where it ties to Donald Trump. So Falcon extensions include the Epoch Times. So the Epoch Times newspaper, which is all like, the right side in the United States, it ties to advertisements in the US with President Trump, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is connected to Epoch Times because they're the supporters of Epoch Times, and Epoch Times is funded by this religious group. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, this is saying that they were having organ harvesting allegations. So they've been tortured, traumatized, these people, and they're just peaceful people. They're not aggressive. There's even issues with them trying to make their resort bigger and bigger and expanding it, and the locals in New York State are getting upset because it's getting bigger and bigger. But they keep saying we're peaceful, we're always polite to everybody. So I think they're just practicing, these kind of spiritual rituals to do with improving body and breathing, and to help with transcending and enlightenment. People get this is not supposed to be practiced, right? Because they can heal their own bodies. So they're saying, like on their website, Dragon Springs website, saying a lot of people that are in the compound, are fleeing from China because they're being attacked, right? And this is, what happens to them when they were doing a protest in Tiananmen Square in the year 2000. So they're being tortured and imprisoned. Others were orphaned. So their other name is Falun Dafa. And here it's saying, mysterious Chinese religious group plots secret revenge to destroy brutal communist regime. Now, we know Trump is totally against the communist regime, right? He's like, when he was going, China, China, yeah, it's like, it's about repressing people, right? And not letting people fight for freedoms or fight for their beliefs. And, it doesn't surprise me that they've, ended up creating this Epoch Times, and they're all part of it. I can totally see this, It's like there's good and evil in every culture, and obviously these people are good people. So the insider is saying here, Falun Gong is a system that combines Buddhism, mysticism, and exercise, but it also touches on aliens and ethnic separation. So it's a spiritual movement, and aliens are in the news now. So I think, yeah, they're going to keep getting in the news too. So yeah, so here it's saying exactly who the founder of Dragon Springs is. And it's again saying the Epoch Times is where their headquarters are. So, yep, that's the Epoch Times is definitely this group. They also have a college there and Academy of the Arts. This is their website, so it's quite a established place. Here's an aerial shot of it. It's explaining the conflict with surrounding communities as they're starting to feel threatened by the size of it. It's really big, right? I can see how local people would feel threatened by that because it's kind of secretive. But then again, I can understand why they want to keep it secretive, since before they were getting like genocided and organ harvested and abused and put in jail. There's actually a fictional story called Dragon Springs Phoenix Rise, and we just learned that the dragon and the phoenix are the yin and yang symbol. But this is a story of a secret sect in Flushing's, Queens, that possesses the magical power to extend human life, and a twin brother and sister caught in a struggle to control it. So see, it's like, I do think that they're practicing stuff that probably does extend life, or somehow, you know, keeps the body in a really healthy state. And of course, that's why their organs are being harvested, because they're like prime friggin' organs. It's crazy. It's very much like the native communities, you know, how they're all being, you know, 5,000 Native American women just disappeared off in North America. And it's like, I think these people, because of their heritage, are psychokinetic. This is what Dan Winter says. They have like a stronger ability to, you know, have this shamanic ability to go into other realms, and therefore they're more valuable. And you know, this is probably why they do go missing, is because they are being harvested. And you know, I understand that why they believe in aliens, because Dan Winter says we're all being, you know, humans are harvested. And I know my friend who lived with the Druids told him humans are harvested. Okay, so we're a crop. And obviously, the big harvest is when they get what they really want, which is, I totally believe, it's phosphorus, it's the ambrosia, it's the nectar of life. Now, this is a really weird coincidence. Operation Yellowstone is an operation that happened in Vietnam, military operation, right? So this whole thing with Yellowstone is what I want to get into now, because in Yellowstone, there's a dragon spring, just like this group from China, which has connections to this Vietnam reporter that has the same name as the guy that was, you know, supposedly in this white Fiat. Now, Yellowstone has geysers coming out of all over the place, but one of them is called Dragon's Mouth Springs. And this article is saying it's almost like the entrance to the underworld and the river Styx. There's also a black dragon cauldron at Yellowstone. It's a boiling mud pot, similar to the mud volcano. You can see on the right-hand side here, just above Yellowstone Lake, there's the Dragon Mouth Springs up by Hayden Valley. Okay, so they've been studying Yellowstone for a long time, and NASA has come up with an idea that can all save us if this thing blows. They want to do like this geothermal source of electrical energy. So they've come up with this plan, you know, so it was in the BBC interview with NASA. So obviously, I think they know something's going to happen, and I'm going to show you how this whole thing with Yellowstone is being symbolized through the Wizard of Oz, and how this keeps coming up, this thing about Yellowstone. Okay, so I think this Yellowstone is, you know, going to be part of the chaos on this planet. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they want to start drilling, but there's like, they could make a mistake and it could get worse if they drill. So this is their you know, plan, is to drill into the core of a volcano. It's interesting that NASA is involved in this, because I do think it has to do with energy coming through our solar system that's going to come into the planet, that's going to create this reset on this planet. It's already happening to other planets, like, you know, they're changing. So it's, you know, we're going to change too. So they probably know this. They're just not telling us. So the primary objective is to gradually defang Yellowstone as a threat to humanity. You know, interesting that they're using the word defang, like it's a dragon, right? Keeping these volcanoes from devastating human food supply and causing deaths of 99% of all humanity. that seems like a worldwide thing to debate. So they're saying, honestly, in the case of a super eruption, what else would we do? We have to try geoengineering. So they're going to try to drill in and somehow use the energy or, to create electricity. Because I think, they know the electricity isn't going to be happening on this planet. Once the magnetic poles get to the equator, it's impossible to have electricity on the planet, and they're racing towards the equator. So the elite know this is happening. And I'm almost thinking like this whole thing with COVID and everything and getting everybody vaccinated. I think it's to stop, a bunch of dead bodies, because I think people aren't going to be able to handle these new gamma rays coming in. And this is what ascension is. And you have to be, at a certain frequency in your body to be able to handle it. And if people are stressed out or whatever, or, you know, um, in that survival mode, they're not going to be able to handle these energies. And so maybe the vaccine is actually going to prevent them from just having a heart attack, right? Maybe it's a way of, trying to get them corralled into like a 5G smart center or city, and that way they're protected and, they can keep the electricity there. That's how I kind of see it all playing out, that's just me. Who knows? We're saying here, some scientists believe it's overdue for its eruption. Now here, the Russian doctor of military sciences says, let's just let's nuke Yellowstone. Like, what the heck is that about? So this was in the news on June 29th, just a few days ago. Wyoming-based nuclear missile force gets new commander. So this woman is now in charge of these. They're called Minutemen missiles, right? So they're silos, and here they are. These red ones are the silos. I put the little round red circle there. That's where Yellowstone is. So it's like a triangle, right? And around Yellowstone, a pyramid. So, this kind of ties into the last eclipse in 2017. It was coming across that part of, United States, the Northwest. So I do think, that's where the Space Needle is as well. So if there's going to be a catastrophe, it would make sense to me that it would be on that same, path as that eclipse. So Yellowstone to me is like yellow brick, right? Stone, brick, it's the same thing. So now you see this in the pop culture of Elton John. There's a wall, a brick wall, and there's a city, but he's stepping through the veil and going into the land of Oz, right? And, he's got his ruby slippers on, okay? So it's all to do with the Wizard of Oz and understanding that there's somebody conducting all this and he's behind the veil, right? The whole story. But I think it's literal in a way that it's tying into Yellowstone, because I know Juan Savan had mentioned a long time ago about the Emerald City is also known as Seattle, and that's where the Space Needle is, right? So that whole part of, we've got the Yellowstone path, we've got the Emerald City. It's all in that section of the United States. The lyrics are weird too, to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It says here, when are you going to come down? When are you going to land? Like, that's like you've been floating, you were harvested. I should have stayed on the farm. I should have, listened to my old man. You can't hold me forever. I don't sign up with you. I'm not a present that your friends can open. This boy is just too young to sing the blues. So goodbye, Yellow Brick Road, where the dogs of society howl. You can't plant me in your penthouse. I'm going back to my plow. So it's like basically, don't leave the farm. Back to the howling old owls in the woods, hunting the horny back toad. Oh, I finally decided where my future lies beyond the yellow brick road. Yeah, so this Yellowstone Road, or Yellow Brick Road, is pretty much everywhere. And it's got the poppies as well, right? It's always the poppies, because that's the Queen of Heaven. Cassiopeia has to do with, uh, drugging you so that you know, become sleepy and, you know, you wake up with a whole bunch of white ash all over you. That's the way I see the Wizard of Oz, you know, when I see them waking up in the snow. There's symbolism of the ash and the snow always. And so to me, that ties into the biblical passage of the sackcloth being over the sun. You know, what would cause that? It's caused by volcanoes. Well, scientifically, if we're going into some different energies into our solar system, of course the volcanoes are going to blow. Of course, it's just like, you know, why wouldn't they? No wonder NASA is so concerned about it. In the pop culture, they're still bringing it into like younger generation, like Angelina Jordan. She's like a up and coming singer, has been on all the, you know, singing contest shows, you know, the X Factor, whatever. She's up and coming, right? So they've got her singing it, you know, everybody sings it. You know, it's a famous song, but it's because it has an importance to it as well. And even Michael Jackson, you know, right? It was The Wiz. He did the movie. You know, he's always trying to awaken us to what was really going on here. So this is a really good quote from him. The Wizard of Oz has secrets that are just too much. Or Peter Pan, the whole Lost Boy thing, is just incredible. They're not childlike at all. They're really, really deep. Oh, yeah. You can rule your life by them. Or say childlike, because children are the most brilliant people of all. That's why they relate to these stories as well. Fairy tales are wonderful. So he's just basically saying, you know, there's a big secret in this movie. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's because it ties to ascension. This song called Hallelujah Day. Here are the lyrics. This is the Jackson 5. So these are the lyrics that stood out to me. People come together. Let the good times roll. We can make this last forever if you feel it in your soul. Somebody found the key. Somebody opened up the door. Now there be dancing in the streets. This is the day we've all been waiting for. So yeah, it's Hallelujah Day. Can't wait. So Michael Jackson's Dangerous album, that's the cover. And one of the songs called Who Is It? This woman holds up the card Diana. Okay, so it's all about the moon. So this was their last album cover. It was the Jackson 6, not just 5. And you'll see Michael, he has both of his feet are light, and so is his hand. You know, the hand is gloved to God. So, and then it's a cosmic thing, right? Coming from the sky. And it looks like we've kind of got like a bit of an obelisk going up there as well. So there, that's the album cover. And here it was actually recorded on 11/11, November 11th. You have to watch the little Moonwalker movie that he did, like a video movie. There's Ascension, right, with the rainbow there. And he turns into this kind of like robotic being, and he kills all the bad people. But at the end, he ends up getting up and singing Come Together by the Beatles, right? Because he had the rights to the Beatles songs. And interesting, in the lyrics of that song, there's mentions Coca-Cola. So I thought that was funny. And, you know, and then he's got his belt buckle there, which I believe has the eagle on it, which is like, you know, or a bird flying. So I was thinking about the Selena or Selene moon goddess in, you know, mythology. And I was thinking about the singer, right? Selena, that had died back in the 90s. And then somebody made a comment today that she actually, her first big commercial sponsor was Coca-Cola. So I was like, no way, that's crazy. So she died on March 31st, so we got the 331, and that's when the sun is on the tail of the whale, right? But what's weird is, you know, she died in Corpus Christi, so we got like the word Christ in there as well. And then, you know, Howard Stern ends up mocking her because, like, saying that she was like a nobody, and it was almost like it was to get the Latin community and get the whole moon thing in with the Latin people, right? And, you know, to traumatize them that this beautiful singer died. And Howard Stern is like, she's a nobody. So, people started like getting upset at him for saying that. Then George W. Bush, who was the Texas governor at the time, creates Selena Day in Texas. But it ended up being on with Easter. And, Christians got upset about that because they're like, oh, well, we don't even know who this singer is, and why are you like tying this to Easter? Because the whole thing about Christ is that he's the moon, right? He's partly the moon. Everybody thinks he's the sun, but he's also the moon because the beehive cluster in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, is the manger of Christ. That's what that is, okay? And that's where man comes into this realm, is through the moon, is through Cancer. Okay, so he has a correlation to the moon. So he's not just the sun. So, it's just like, wow, I can't believe they did all this. And, it's just, and then, Howard Stern tries to like bring like attention to it, right? It's all done on purpose. Now, whether she died by, was it created and then they just took all the symbolism and used it, or did they actually kill her, or, is she dead? Who the heck knows? All I know is that they use the symbolism and they use the wording, her name is the moon. So Selena's birthday was April 16th, 1971, and you won't guess where the moon was. You got it, smack dab in the Golden Gate. This is really important for a future video that I have to do for you guys, but the Golden Gate, with the moon in the Golden Gate, it's on the tip of the spear, right? And it's not a coincidence in the Coca-Cola commercial she's dressed in gold. Yep. So they knew, somebody knew. It's just who the heck knows how it all plays out, but the symbolism's there. So Judy Garland, who was, the star in Meet Me in St. Louis, which I mentioned in my last video, was also the star in The Wizard of Oz. I think everybody knows that. And it was considered to be the greatest film of all time. Now, I didn't know that it actually came from a series of books that were written 20 years prior, in the early 19th century. So L. Frank Baum was the author of all these Wizard of Oz books. And the original book was The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, was the name of the novel. So he was a playwright, and he had all these characters. There's the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and, he had many different plays. And the fairy log and radio plays, these are all his characters. So I don't think he was super, super, super successful, but I guess they took his work and then created the Wizard of Oz movie. There's a whole series of Oz books. Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, The Road to Oz, The Emerald City of Oz. But one of them's called TikTok of Oz. So I was like, oh, that's where they get the TikTok from, right? So it was interesting because Trump had this thing with TikTok just recently. So Trump TikTok deal. What just happened and why does it matter? Well, they're saying here that TikTok was a corporate parent company of ByteDance, and its headquarters were in Beijing. So TikTok could be used as an arm of the Chinese Communist Party to spy on American citizens or cause other mischief. So, he said, no, we can't have that. Then he ended up, took a victory lap for signing off on a last-ditch deal to rescue TikTok, boasting that China problem had been solved and a new company would be incorporated in the U.S. and will have nothing to do with China, the president said. So he took the control of TikTok and brought it to the U.S. But I think the whole reason that it got put in the news, it was kind of like a nothing burger, was that it tied to the Wizard of Oz. Seriously, this is how they do it. So here's all the release dates of the film when it came out. August 10th in Wisconsin, California, August 11th in Massachusetts, and then this Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, on August 12th. And around that time is when the sun is between the two pillars, Leo and Cancer, right? It's right on the middle path. So recently, well, on 2019, it was the 80th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz, and Oconomowoc created this yellow brick road to celebrate that, the festival. So in 2024, it'll be the 85th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz, which adds to the number 13. This is really weird. To install that brick, road in that town was DNA Landscaping, which is owned by Adam Woodward and David Batsner, because constructing of the yellow brick road portion of the project in mid-July is in anticipation of the 80th anniversary. So the plaza is going, yeah. So it's like, anyway, I just thought that was so funny. DNA Landscaping, like, how can that be? You have to activate your DNA to ascend, and I guess fly back home to Kansas. So this is the time when the movie came out, right between Line and Cancer, the moon. The sun is on the middle path, but we also have Venus and Mercury there, which is starting to go into conjunction, which is all part of the Venus pentagrams, right? So I'll have to look into that to see if that was which pentagram that started on. I haven't done that. The next video I'm going to do is on the Venus pentagrams. It was a black moon on the twins, and it was on the twin of the ascending twin, which is Pollux. Now they changed the slippers, the magic slippers that get you home. They used to be silver shoes. So I was starting to think about that. Like, does that tie into the silver gate and the silver archway? And, that is really the snake, right? Now we know that Taurus is the snake. And is that your Kundalini that rises, because it ends up being the snake. So I'm just kind of curious about that and starting to wonder whether the silver gate is really to do with you opening your third eye, and that is the real gate, and then the golden gate, maybe isn't. I'm not sure. In the sky, the spear is killing the dragon at the golden gate. So maybe it is, I don't know. It's just weird the way Taurus is now the snake, and I really do think the snake is your Kundalini. And the Munchkins were originally all blue, like the blue people, the blue man. So then they changed them to be all multicolors. There's a picture of the original ruby slippers. Now ruby ties to chromium. Now chromium has the ascension symbol on it, on the esoteric Royal Society's periodic table. So maybe that's why they changed it to ruby. So in the original play, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, when it was a theater production, they mention Rockefeller in here. So they go, you wouldn't be as badly off as John D. Rockefeller, the Scarecrow responds. I'd lose $6,000 a minute if that happened. So they mention Rockefeller, okay? And he's tied into this movie because I found a few different, articles about this. And they're talking here that there's a monetary policy to the Wizard of Oz because, like, Oz means like ounces, and that, that it has to do with money. This guy interpreted that the yellow brick road represented the gold standard, and the silver shoes, ruby slippers, represented the silver light 16:1 silver ratio. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a sideline, but the fact that they mention John D. Rockefeller is important. He was like the oil magnet, right? So he was like, you know, created, and then he had to go to court because like he was like monopolizing the whole oil industry, like monopoly. So the whole point of his whole family, it goes back. It's even goes back even more weird. You know those boots where you get these crystal, like they look like tree stumps, and there's usually crystals inside, and these were sacred sites for the native culture. He would go in, his family would go in and mine all these crystals coming out of those boots. And I just kind of find it weird because there's mythology about these boots being giant crystalline trees, right? And, their name is called Rockefeller. I'm like, what the heck is that? It's like, I don't know. It's just bizarre. The whole thing is bizarre. Maybe they're responsible for the falling of the rock trees, right? Like they fell the rock trees, the crystal trees. But what's really weird is there's a John D. Rockefeller Jr., that's his son, highway in Yellowstone. Okay, so when I saw that, I was like, okay, so the wonderful Wizard of Oz original screenplays, they mention Rockefeller, and then he's in Yellowstone Park. I'm kind of just like, that's a little bit too much of a coincidence for me. So this Rockefeller Memorial Highway runs along Jackson Lake down towards Snake River, and this is exactly where the Trumps went, and Melania actually took a raft down Snake River and posed in front of the Snake Gateway that was all full of like antlers, like deer moose antlers. And there was other things, like she had her picture taken in front of the mountain, representing the mountain again, which is like to do with the MAGA mother. And I did a video all on this with her doing this, and she represents like the MAGA mother. But anyhow, the fact that this is all tying to Yellowstone, right? And the reason that I really believe this is really tying to Yellowstone and with the Trump administration is because of what happened at the Capitol Hill. The Odin guy that pretends to be a Q supporter, his name is Yellowstone Wolf. So, there's a lot of coincidences here that I don't think are coincidences. The Yellowstone is super important, and I think it really does tie all to the Wizard of Oz, and I think it all does tie to actual Yellowstone Park. And it's a joke, right? Like, he looks, I don't know if you guys, seen pictures of him, but this is one of the pictures with his son. But he always had a mustache, and then he ended up getting a disease where all the hair and his mustache fell off his face. But he, like, monopolized the money, right? And then if you look at the game board, the board game, Monopoly, it's him. It's freaking him on the game board. Now this ties in to the TikTok original Tin Man, who also looks like him from the TikTok of Oz. They have this like tin, I guess it's the original Tin Man. But he has the mustache. And in the end, one of the books, it's a dragon. Okay, so it's like, oh my God, it's all connected. Did you guys remember back in, I think, 2017, that Monopoly Man showed up at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? And I was always wondering why that happened. But I think it's really Rockefeller. He's Monopoly. He's the Monopoly Man, and it's tying to Yellowstone. It ties to the Wizard of Oz. I can't believe it. It's like everything is connected. It's like, it's nuts. It's just crazy. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was fun putting it together. I'm going to drop a link to a video that is supposedly somebody that is from the elite families explaining how this realm works. And it's really how my intuition believes it works. And it's really nice to have confirmation of somebody else saying it. So I'm going to drop that in the description box for you guys.